I was at a game just last week. It was one of those electric nights, fourth quarter, tie game, absolute bedlam in the arena.
The best kind of chaos.
Oh, the best. That's why we go, right? The point guard is dribbling out the clock. The coach is just, screaming his lungs out on the sideline. Fans are spilling beer on each other. It was just pure chaos.
I love that.
Exactly. But then, right before the final shot, the camera pans up. It goes past the sweating players, past the man at coach, past the nosebleed seats, and it locks onto a luxury suite way, way up in the rafters.
Fishbowl.
The fishbowl, exactly. And there's a guy standing there. He's usually wearing a suit that, costs more than my car, arms crossed, face completely stoic.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's watching a funeral while everyone else is at this massive party. And it hit me, we spend thousands of hours analyzing the guys on the floor, but we almost never talk about that guy.
The architect.
The architect. The person who decided which players are on that floor, who hired the coach that's screaming at them, and who is probably doing mental math on next year's luxury tax apron while the rest of us are just praying for a bucket.
It is arguably the most stressful job in professional sports. You are the invisible hand. When things go well, players get the shoe deals.
Right.
When things go bad, you're the one packing up your office.
And that is exactly where we are going today. We are walking off the court, taking the elevator to the executive level, and kicking down the door of the front office. We are doing a deep dive into the NBA Executive of the Year award.
This is one of my favorite topics because it's right at the intersection of, art and science. You have the Moneyball aspect, the data, the cap management, asset accumulation, all that stuff.
The spreadsheets.
The spreadsheets.
Yeah.
But then you have the human element, ego management, negotiation, just pure gut instincts. It's fascinating territory.
And we aren't just guessing here. We have a serious stack of source material to get through. We're looking at the official historical records, the complete winner lists, and, the organizational data spanning over 50 years of NBA history.
A huge sample size.
A huge sample size. And our mission today, to figure out who actually wins the decade, not just the game.
I love that distinction. Because there's an old adage in front office circles that really, really rings true.
Yeah.
Players win games. Coaches win series.
Okay.
But executives win decades. They build the ecosystems that allow all that winning to happen in the first place.
Executives win decades. I'm going to write that down. That's our mantra for today.
It has to be. Think about the great dynasties. The Celtics of the 60s, the Bulls of the 90s, the Spurs, the Warriors. None of those happened by accident.
Right.
They were engineered. Decisions were made years in advance that allowed those moments on the court to even exist. And today, we're going to find out who the best engineers were.
Okay, so before we start naming names, and we have some massive ones, from the Godfather of Phoenix to the legend himself, Larry Bird, we need to set the ground rules. Let's unpack the mechanics of this. What exactly is this award? Is it just like the MVP for old guys in suits?
Not quite, though. The demographic is certainly older than the roster. The award is officially the NBA Executive of the Year, and it's given annually to the league's top decision maker.
Okay, so the GM, basically.
It can be the general manager. Sometimes it's the president of basketball operations. The title on the business card can vary. But it goes to the person who is undeniably calling the shots on personnel.
And how far back does our data go? What's our starting point?
We are starting in the 1972-73 season. That is our year zero.
Wow. Okay, so that's crucial context. 1973, the NBA is a very, very different place compared to today.
Oh, completely. We're talking about a league that hasn't even fully merged with the ABA yet. There is no three-point line. The salary cap didn't exist in the structured way we know it.
Free agency was what, just a rumor?
Practically medieval. So the job of an executive back in 73 was fundamentally different. It was about scouting and, handshake deals. Today, it's about capology, analytics, and managing a global brand.
So one was a talent scout who smokes cigars in a back room, and the other is a mathematician with an algorithm.
That's a perfect way to put it. But the goal, the core goal remains the same, the accumulation of talent to win a championship.
Now, I found something in the notes about the voting process that actually, it kind of shocked me. I just assumed, like the MVP or the all-NBA teams, that this was voted on by the media, the beat writers and the national pundits who drive the narrative.
That is a very, very common misconception. And to be fair, for a long time, it was a bit muddy. So prior to 2009, the award was actually presented by the Sporting News, which is a publication.
Oh, okay.
It was recognized by the NBA, but it was technically given out by a media entity. But then, in 2009, the NBA officially took the awarding duties in-house.
All right, so the league takes control. Who gets the ballot now? Is it a committee?
This is what makes this award perhaps the most cutthroat honor in the entire league. The voting is conducted by the executives of the league's 30 teams.
Wait, so it's a peer vote?
It is strictly a peer vote.
Stop and think about the psychology of that for a second. This isn't a sports writer who loves a good underdog story voting for you. This is the guy you were screaming at on the phone 2 months ago during the trade deadline.
Exactly. It's the guy you tried to fleece in a deal.
Huh.
It's the guy whose free agent target you stole at the 11th hour. It's the guy who is actively plotting to get you fired so he can take your job or, poach your star player.
And that is the person who has to sit down with a ballot and check the box next to your name.
That's the guy.
So does that make the award more valid, or does it make it more political?
I would argue it makes it significantly more valid. Think about it. A writer looks at a team that wins 50 games and says, wow, great season. A rival GM looks at that same team and knows, wait a minute, he managed to get off that terrible contract, he used the mid-level exception perfectly to get that bench scorer, and he found a starter in the second round of the draft.
They see the degree of difficulty.
They respect the degree of difficulty. They know how hard it is to do what you just did.
You'll recognize real.
Exactly. But you're right to mention politics. Of course there are rivalries. There are cliques. Maybe you don't vote for the guy who embarrassed you in the press. But generally speaking, over a 50-year sample size, the cream rises to the top. If you win this award, it means your enemies had to admit you were better than them that year.
That is a heavy crown to wear. My enemies chose me.
Okay, so we know the stakes. Let's get into the history books. When we look at the gold standard of NBA executives, who is the guy on the mountaintop?
There is one name that just dominates the data. If we are talking about the godfather of the front office, it is undoubtedly Jerry Colangelo, the face of Phoenix basketball. For, ever.
He is the undisputed king of this award. He is the only person in NBA history to win it 4 times.
4 times. I feel like in the modern NBA, most GMs don't even last 4 years in the job.
The turnover rate is just incredibly high. I mean, if you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, you're usually updating your LinkedIn profile.
Right, you're gone.
For Colangelo to win 4 times, it implies a level of longevity that is almost impossible to replicate in the modern game.
And looking at the data here, these weren't 4 wins in a 5-year span where he just had one great roster and kind of rode the wave.
No, and that's the genius of his resume. Let's look at the timeline, because the dates really tell the story of his adaptability. His first win is in 1976.
Okay, set the scene for 76. That's the Sensational Suns, right?
A team that finished 42-40, barely made the playoffs, and then went on this miracle run to the NBA Finals against the Celtics. That's the famous Gar-Heard shot era.
The shot heard around the world.
Exactly. So he built a Cinderella story in the chaos of the post-merger 70s.
And then he wins again in 1981, then again in 1989, and his final win is in 1993.
Pause on that. 1976 to 1993. That is a 17-year gap between the first and last trophy.
Think about how much the sport itself changed in that window. In 1976, there's no three-point line. The league has a different kind of public image.
The finals were on tape delay.
The finals were on tape delay. And by 1993, you have the global explosion of the Dream Team, the marketing machine of the Jordan era, and the salary cap is fully instituted. It's a different universe.
And Colangelo mastered all of it. He didn't just survive the changes, he exploited them. Take the 1989 win. He orchestrated this massive turnaround by trading away a proven all-star, Larry Nance, to Cleveland.
A move which usually gets you fired if it doesn't work out.
Oh, immediately. But in return, he got Kevin Johnson, who became the point guard of the future, and Mark West, and a bunch of other pieces. People thought he was crazy trading Nance. But he saw where the game was going. Faster, more guard-oriented.
He was ahead of the curve. And then 1993. That's the big one. That's the Charles Barkley trade.
The blockbuster. He looks at a roster that is good, but not great. They had won 53 games the year before, and he decides it's not enough. He pushes all his chips into the middle of the table to get Charles Barkley from Philadelphia.
Which is terrifying for a GM. Barkley was controversial. He had baggage. If that trade busts, Colangelo's entire legacy is tarnished.
But he saw the fit.
Yeah.
That team wins 62 games, Barkley wins MVP, Colangelo wins Executive of the Year, and they go to the finals against Jordan's Bulls.
So Colangelo essentially built 3 or 4 completely distinct iterations of the Phoenix Suns and made them all contenders.
Which is exactly why the Phoenix Suns, as a franchise, are the leaders in this clubhouse. When we look at the total awards by team, Phoenix is sitting at #1 with 6 total wins, 4 from Jerry, and 2 others we'll get to later.
It is absolutely wild that they have 6 Executive of the Year awards but 0 championships to show for it.
That is the cruel irony of the architect, isn't it? You can build a perfect house, but you can't control the weather. Colangelo ran into the 76 Celtics and Jordan in 93. He did his job perfectly. The ball just didn't bounce their way in the end.
It really highlights that difference between process and result. The peers voted for him because the process was flawless, even if the final result wasn't a ring.
Exactly. Now, Colangelo represents the pure executive, the guy in the suit who started in the front office. But there is another archetype in our data that I find fascinating.
Okay.
The player who walks directly off the court and immediately into the boardroom.
The legends.
And nobody embodies this transition better than the man from French Lick.
Wait, Bird.
We have to just stop and appreciate the sheer absurdity of Larry Bird's resume.
It reads like fan fiction. It doesn't seem real.
In 2012, Larry Bird won the Executive of the Year award with the Indiana Pacers. In doing so, he became the only human being in history to complete the holy trinity of the NBA.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the Trinity?
He wins NBA Most Valuable Player as a player. We all know that. He won 3 straight.
Check.
He wins NBA Coach of the Year as a head coach, which he did with the Pacers in 1998, leading them to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Also check.
And then he wins Executive of the Year.
MVP,
Yep.
Coach of the Year, Exec of the Year. He completed basketball.
He really did. He got 100% on this final exam. And we have to appreciate how hard that is, because the skill sets for those 3 jobs usually conflict with each other.
How so? I mean, you'd think a great player would know what a great player looks like, right?
You'd think so. But history shows us what we call the great player curse. Great players often struggle to coach because they lack patience. They can't understand why a role player can't just shoot like I did or see the floor the way I did.
Right. Magic Johnson's coaching career was short.
It was very short. And Michael Jordan, famously, has had a very, very rocky road in the front office. They trust their gut too much, or they just get frustrated with mediocrity. Then look at the other transition, from coach to exec. Great coaches often struggle as executives because they are, by necessity, myopic.
Myopic how?
A coach cares about winning the game tonight, because if he loses 10 in a row, he's fired. An executive needs to care about the salary cap 3 years from now.
Oh, that's a great point. The coach wants to trade the first-round pick for a 35-year-old veteran who can help grab rebounds now.
Exactly. And the executive wants to hoard that pick for the future. They are naturally opposing forces. The coach wants to survive the day. The executive wants to survive the decade.
And Bird somehow mastered both mindsets.
Bird is the anomaly who understood the rhythm of the player, the tactics of the coach, and the long-term strategy of the executive.
Is there anyone else who even comes close to that triple crown?
No one has all 3. But there is a very small, very exclusive group we call the Coach Executive Club. These are the guys who have won both Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year.
Okay, so who has a membership card to that club?
Red Auerbach, the patriarch of the Celtics. He won Coach of the Year in '65 and then Executive of the Year in 1980.
The guy who invented the victory cigar. Of course he's in.
Then you have Frank Layden with the Utah Jazz, who won the Exec Award in '84, and Pat Riley.
The Godfather Part 2.
Riley is interesting. He won Coach of the Year multiple times with the Lakers, Knicks, and Heat. He won the Executive Award in 2011 with the Miami Heat, though it was technically a shared award that year with Gar Forman.
So Auerbach, Bird, Riley.
Think about those names. These are the sharpest, toughest, most demanding minds in the history of the sport.
Yeah, they aren't exactly the player's friend type of leader. They're culture setters.
Exactly. But it's a very short list. It proves that while you can do both, it's exceptionally rare to be elite at both. Most coaches who try to run the front office, well, they end up getting fired from both jobs.
Speaking of elite, I want to talk about the logo, because you can't have a conversation about NBA architects without discussing Jerry West.
You really can. If Colangelo is the longevity king, Jerry West is the adaptability king.
He won the award twice, and the locations of those 2 wins tell the entire story.
They really do. His first win comes in 1995 with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. It's the Lakers. You have the weather, the Hollywood stars, the history. Is it really that hard to recruit people to LA?
That's always the knock on the Lakers' job. The logo sells itself. The weather recruits for you. But West did something remarkable in '95. This was the post-Magic Johnson era. The team had totally collapsed. They were supposed to be dead in the water for a decade.
Right, Showtime was over.
And Wes rebuilt them on the fly with guys he drafted, like Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones and Vlade Divac. He showed he could draft and develop, not just write big checks for superstars.
But the real mic drop moment for his legacy was his second win.
Oh, yeah.
2004, the Memphis Grizzlies.
You cannot get further from Hollywood, both literally and figuratively, than Memphis, Tennessee.
It's a small market, a franchise that, let's be honest, had been a laughingstock since they moved from Vancouver. No history of winning, no appeal as a free agent destination.
None.
If you can win there, you can win anywhere.
And he did. He went there and built a 50-win team with Pau Gasol and Hubie Brown coaching. That is the ultimate validation. It proved that Jerry West wasn't just successful because he had the Lakers checkbook or the forum's allure. He was successful because he had the best eye for talent in the league. He found value where others saw nothing.
It's the ultimate, I can build a winner in a cave with a box of scraps moment.
That's exactly what it is.
Now, we've been throwing around all these awards, 1995, 2004, 1976. But there's a burning question that I have. We talked about process versus result with Colangelo. Does the executive of the year actually win the championship in the same season?
You would assume the correlation is 1-to-1, right? The best executive builds the best team wins the ring.
It makes perfect sense to me.
The data says absolutely not.
Really? That's surprising.
It is actually surprisingly rare for the executive of the year to be the one hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June.
Okay, why is that? What's the logic there?
It goes right back to the voting psychology we discussed at the top. Remember who is voting? The other 29 GMs.
His peers.
His peers. If you have a super team, say the 90s Bulls or the KD Warriors, the other GMs look at that and they say, well, yeah, you won. You have Michael Jordan. That's easy mode.
So they don't give you credit for maintaining the Ferrari. They give you credit for fixing the broken-down Honda Civic.
That is a perfect analogy. The award almost always goes to the turnaround story. The team that was projected to win 25 games and won 45, the voters are impressed by the delta, the change. You took a complete mess and made it a playoff team. That's impressive.
So who are the rare exceptions? Who actually pulled off the double dip?
We have to look at the bolded names in our records. These are the guys who defied that turnaround bias. Red Auerbach did it in 1980s. The Celtics won the title, and he won the award.
That was the year he pulled off the heist of the century to get Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish.
That's the one. He traded the #1 overall pick to Golden State for Parrish and the #3 pick, which he then used on McHale. It is widely considered the single greatest trade in NBA history. If you commit grand larceny like that, your peers have to give you the award.
Okay, so you have to do something legendary. Who else?
Jerry Krause did it in 1996 with the Bulls.
The 72-10 season.
You just can't ignore 72 wins. Even if the other GMs were jealous of Jordan, that level of dominance was undeniable. Yeah. And Krause had also retooled the roster that year, bringing in Dennis Rodman.
Which was a massive risk at the time.
A huge risk that paid off. And then more recently, Danny Ainge in 2008 with the Boston Celtics.
The Big Three era.
He traded for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen in one single summer. They went from the lottery to the championship in 1 year. So that covers both bases. It's a championship team, and it's a massive turnaround story.
That's the sweet spot right there.
That's the formula. But then look at a guy like Bob Myers with the Golden State Warriors. He won in 2015, their first title. But in 2017, 2018, when they were dominating the league with Kevin Durant, the voters looked elsewhere.
It's classic voter fatigue.
It's voter fatigue and it's super team bias. Once you are on top, your peers stop being impressed and start being resentful. They start voting for the guy in Utah or Portland who is overachieving with less talent.
It's so funny. We talk about dynasties, but the award itself doesn't really like dynasties.
It doesn't, but we have to acknowledge the dynasty builders, even if the hardware doesn't always reflect their sustained greatness. You mentioned Krause winning twice, 1988, 1996.
Right.
And Myers won twice, 2015, 2017. And you have to mention R.C. Buford with the Spurs, who won it twice in 2014 and 2016.
The Spurs are the absolute model of consistency.
They are. And Buford winning in 14 and 16 proves that the Spurs weren't just about Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich. They had a front office that kept finding incredible talent late in the draft. Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, to keep that machine running. for 20 years.
I want to pivot here a bit because we've been talking about very American stories, Colangelo, West, Bird, Ainge, but the NBA has gone global on the court. You have Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Wemby running the league. For a long time, though, the front office was an old boys club of American coaches and scouts.
It was an impenetrable fortress. If you look at the nationality of every single winner from 1973 all the way to 2012, it is 100% American-born.
40 years of American exclusivity.
Until 2013.
The year the glass ceiling finally shattered.
I saw you, Jerry.
The current Raptors boss, but back then he was running the Denver Nuggets.
Correct. Born in England, of Nigerian descent.
Yeah.
Didn't play in the NBA. He didn't coach in the NCAA. His story is incredible. He started as an unpaid scout, traveling around Europe and Africa, sleeping on couches, hustling his way into gyms just to watch players.
He essentially willed his way into the league through sheer effort.
And in 2013, with the Denver Nuggets, he proved that an outsider perspective was actually a massive advantage. That Nuggets team he built was fast, deep, and unconventional. He saw value in international players and different styles of play where the traditional basketball lifers didn't.
So what was the long-term significance of that win?
It opened the floodgates. It completely validated the idea that you can find executive talent anywhere in the world. Now you look around the league and front offices are incredibly diverse. You have former agents, cap specialists, data scientists, international scouts. Ujiri proved you don't need to be part of the old coaching tree or a former player to run a team.
And speaking of new perspectives, I want to fast forward to the modern era, the 2020s, because looking at this list of recent winners, something feels different. It's not just where they're from, it's like how old they are.
It's a definite changing of the guard.
Yeah.
Let's just run down the list since 2020. In 2020, you have Lawrence Frank with the Clippers. 2021, James Jones bringing it back to Phoenix. That's their 6th total win.
Of course, Phoenix.
2022, Zach Kleiman with the Grizzlies. 2023, Monty McNair with the Sacramento Kings. 2024, Brad Stevens with the Celtics.
Another coach to exec guy.
Exactly. And the most recent winner in our data from 2025. Sam Presti finally getting his due in Oklahoma City.
What jumps out at me is the age. Zach Kleiman was, 33 years old when he won?
I believe so. That's younger than LeBron James was at the time.
That's insane. It's like the tech CEO era of the NBA GM.
That is a great way to put it. We've really moved away from the 70-year-old patriarch who relies on smell tests and gut feeling. Now it's about analytics, asset management, and aggressive maneuvering. These young executives treat the league like a stock market. They're looking for arbitrage opportunities.
And notice something else. There are no repeat winners in the 2020s yet.
It's a carousel, a different name every single year.
So what does that tell you about the state of the league right now?
It tells me the margins are razor thin. In the 80s and 90s, if you had a dominant system or a transcendent superstar, you could exploit that for a decade. Now, everyone has the same data. Everyone has the same tracking software. If you find an inefficiency like the corner 3 or undervalued second-round picks, the rest of the league copies you within 6 months.
So it's just harder to stay on top.
Much, much harder. The fact that we have a different winner every year suggests that parity, for the most part, is real. The dynasty is becoming an endangered species because the rules, like the salary cap and the draft lottery, are designed to tear great teams apart.
Which makes the job of the architect even harder. You can't just build it once and let it run. You have to constantly be renovating.
You have to renovate or you get demolished.
I want to go back to the franchise leaderboard for a second. We mentioned Phoenix is at the top with 6 wins. Who's chasing them?
This is where the data gets quirky and, honestly, a bit surprising. Sitting there in second place, tied with 4 wins, is the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, that makes total sense. The model franchise for 20 years.
But tied with them at 4 wins. The Sacramento Kings.
Wait, what? The Kings?
I know. It sounds like a typo to modern ears.
For the last 15, almost 20 years, the Kings were the literal definition of dysfunction. Kangs was the meme.
It was. But the award has a long memory. And the Kings have had these pockets of absolute brilliance. Joe Axelson won way back in '73 when they were the Kansas City Omaha Kings.
The nomadic Kings.
And then Jeff Petrie. We have to give Jeff Petrie his flowers. He won twice in 1999 and 2001.
That was a greatest show on court era.
Chris Webber, Vlade Divac, Peja Stojakovic, Jason Williams. Petrie built one of the most aesthetically pleasing, beautiful basketball teams in history. They passed the ball. They were unselfish. They didn't win the ring, thanks to the Lakers and some questionable officiating.
We will get into that.
But they were brilliantly constructed. And the Monty McNair winning in 23 brings them up to 4 total.
It really shows that even cursed franchises have these moments of clarity, and it reinforces that turnaround bias we talked about. The Kings were so bad for so long that when they finally got good under McNair, the voters rushed to reward him for it.
Absolutely.
Who is in the next tier down?
The three-win club. In here, you have the heavyweights you'd expect: Boston Celtics, Chicago Bulls, Golden State Warriors,
Yeah.
but also the Denver Nuggets, the LA Clippers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder Seattle Supersonics franchise.
Ah, right. The Sonics history counts for the Thunder. You have to remember that.
Correct. Franchise records travel with the team. So Seattle won twice, Zolly Volchok in '83, and the great Bob Whitsitt in '94.
Trader Bob.
A legend. He would trade his own mother for a second-round pick if the math worked out. He's the one who built the Sean Kemp, Gary Payton Sonics.
An iconic team.
And then Sam Presti brought the third one home for the franchise in OKC in 2025.
I love that lineage. From Gary Payton to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a legacy of great guard play.
And smart drafting.
Okay, so let's talk about the guys who proved it wasn't a fluke. We mentioned Colangelo winning 4 times. Who are the double dippers? The guys who won it twice?
It's an elite list. We mentioned Bob Myers and R.C. Buford, the modern dynasty builders. But let's shine a light on a few others. Wayne Embry.
The Cavaliers legend.
He won twice with Cleveland in '92 and '98. Wayne Embry is such a crucial historical figure. He was the first African-American general manager in NBA history. He didn't just open the door. He kicked it down and won the award twice.
That is huge. He built those tough physical Cavs teams that battled Michael Jordan every year.
Exactly. Then you have Bob Ferry. He won twice with the Washington Bullets in '79 and '82. He built the team that finally brought a title to D.C. with Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes.
But there is one guy on this list of 2-time winners who did something that I think is technically the hardest feat of all. Stan Kasten.
Stan Kasten, the only manager in our detailed records to win the award back-to-back.
Back-to-back.
1986 and 1987 with the Atlanta Hawks.
Think about the voter fatigue we just discussed. The GMs hate voting for the same guy twice in a row. It feels boring. It feels like you're just rubber stamping it.
Exactly. For Kasten to win in '86, and then for the voters to look at the '87 Hawks and say, damn it, he did it again, we have to give it to him, that is just incredible.
That was the Dominique Wilkins era, right?
The human highlight film. Kasten built a team that was consistently excellent in a brutal Eastern Conference that had the Celtics, Pistons, and Sixers. To win Executive of the Year twice in a row in that Shark Tank is remarkable.
Now, I want to get a little personal. We talk about fathers and sons on the court all the time. The Currys, the Thompsons, the Barrys. But there is a front office dynasty in our data, too.
The Colangelos.
We know Jerry has his 4 wins, but his son, Brian Colangelo, is on this list, too.
Twice.
That is wild. Are they the only father-son duo to win it?
The only one. And the narrative around Brian is so fascinating. He wins his first one in 2005 with the Phoenix Suns.
Which, let's be honest, the critics at the time would say, well, he just took over Daddy's team.
100%. Born on third base.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he didn't just maintain the status quo. He was the one who helped pivot that team into the 7 seconds or less era with Steve Nash and coach Mike D'Antoni.
A revolutionary style of basketball.
It was a radical shift. He took a huge risk on a play style that a lot of old school basketball people thought couldn't win.
But he didn't stop there. He didn't just stay in Phoenix.
No. He went to the Toronto Raptors, a completely different challenge, different country, different market, and he won again in 2007.
That must have felt so good. To win with a team his dad had nothing to do with.
It cemented his own legacy. He proved he wasn't just Jerry's son. He was a top-tier executive in his own right. He built a division winner in Toronto.
And we also see other executives moving around and succeeding, which I think is the ultimate test of pure skill. We mentioned Bob Bass earlier.
Yes, Bob Bass. He won with the San Antonio Spurs in 1990, building the David Robinson era, and then he went to the Charlotte Hornets and won again in 1997.
The Hornets, the teal jerseys, Grandmama, Zoe, Morning.
That 90s Hornets team was iconic. And Bass showed that the skill of roster construction travels. You can do it in Texas, you can do it in North Carolina. It's not about the location, it's about having the eye for talent.
Okay, let's bring it all home by looking at the ultimate honor, the Hall of Fame. We mentioned Colangelo and Embry are in as contributors.
Right. That's the specific category for non-players and non-coaches. But it's really interesting to see how many Hall of Fame players also won this award. It's like the ultimate cherry on top of a career.
We talked about Bird and West, but let's talk about Elgin Baylor.
The Clippers GM for what felt like decades.
He won the award in 2006.
People forget this. Elgin Baylor is in the Hall of Fame as one of the greatest plays ever, the first true high flyer. But he ran the Clippers for a long, long time under, let's say, very difficult ownership.
The Donald Sterling era, not exactly known for spending money to win.
The tightest purse strings in the league, maybe in all of sports. And yet in 2006, Baylor built a team with Elton Brand and Sam Cassell that actually won a playoff series. Getting the Clippers to the second round in that era, that was a legitimate miracle.
He deserved the award just for dealing with all the headaches.
Absolutely. Then you have Joe Dumars.
Hall of Fame player for the Bad Boy Pistons. Two-time champ.
And then he becomes the architect of the '04 championship Pistons. He won the Executive Award in 2003, the year before they won it all.
Dumars is fascinating because he built a championship team without a top 50 all-time player. There was no Shaq, no Duncan, no Kobe on that roster. It was just a perfectly fitted puzzle of very good players.
Which is arguably the hardest way to build a team. He traded for Rip Hamilton, he signed Chauncey Billups, he drafted Tayshaun Prince, he traded for Rasheed Wallace at the deadline. Every single move was a hit. He's the patron saint of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
And one more contributor worth noting here, Rod Thorne.
Rod Thorne won in 2002 with the New Jersey Nets. That was the Jason Kidd era, when he traded for Kidd and they immediately went to back-to-back finals. Thorne is also elected to the Hall of Fame. He's a massive figure in the league office as well for years. He's the guy who drafted Michael Jordan when he was with the Bulls.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he was the GM before Krause.
That alone should get you in the Hall of Fame, just being able to say, I picked Jordan.
It's a pretty good line to have on the resume.
So we have looked at the history, the mechanics, the legends, the families. When you step back and look at this 50-plus year data set, from Colangelo all the way to Sam Presti, what is the big so what for you? Why does this award truly matter?
It matters because it reveals the cycles of the league. When you see the Suns winning 6 times or the Spurs winning 4 times, you see organizations that established a culture of winning. It wasn't just luck. But then when you look at the recent winners, Kleiman, McNair, Stevens, Presti, Hosseini, you see how quickly the league changes.
It's a copycat league.
It is. A great player wins a game. A great executive wins a decade. But in the 2020s, with the voting done by peers, the fact that we haven't had a repeat winner in this decade yet suggests the league is tighter and more competitive than ever. No single system dominates anymore. You can't just run the triangle offense for 20 years and expect to win.
You have to constantly adapt or you die.
Exactly. The competitive edge is just harder to find. The information gap is closed. Every team knows who the good players are in Europe. Every team has the tracking data. So to win this award now, you have to be bolder, smarter, and maybe a little bit luckier than ever before.
That is a provocative thought to end on. We are in the era of hyper-competitiveness, not just on the court, but in the boardroom, the war room.
Absolutely. The next godfather, like Colangelo, a guy who wins 4 times, he might not exist because the game moves too fast now.
Well, next time you see a trade notification pop up on your phone or you see a team draft a guy from a league you've never heard of, just remember, there's an architect behind it, sweating out the details, trying to win that vote from their peers.
And trying to build a legacy that lasts a little bit longer than a shoe contract.
Thanks for diving in with us. It's been a pleasure exploring the front office.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Take care.